Hello and welcome back to our episode number 46, and it's Love It or Shove It talk show. And I'm here, Irina Portnova, with my co-host Bruno Jill. And today we are going to be talking about the forgiveness and resilience. Bruno, when I say forgiveness and resilience, what does it come for you?
Well, first of all, welcome all to today's episode, Forgiveness and Resilience. Well, when it comes for me, when we talk about forgiveness and resilience, we talk about, I think we should be resilient enough to forgive. And if we can forgive, it's proof that we are resilient enough. It's proof that we are good people. It's proof that, we choose to let go of it, mainly because of ourselves. Whenever we're feeling anger, people are, they say, oh, I don't want people to understand me, I don't want this. Yeah, but you don't want people to understand you, but you still behave like the person is feeling your anger, right? Because that's why you're angry because you care, and you care enough to believe that the person cares, right? But when the person doesn't care, then you feel empty and you feel regretful and you feel hopeless and you just feel disgusted, right? So that anger just proves that there really is that need for connection, because there is that level of caring, right? And so we have to be resilient to forgive. We have to be resilient enough to just accept that things are the way they are. And it takes lots of courage to just let go of a situation that is no longer useful for us. It was useful for quite a long of time, yes, sure. But coping mechanisms, at some day when we want growth, those coping mechanisms, they have to just cope. They have to be relieved. They have to be let go of, because the person we want to become is really not the person we want to become does not possess any sort of behaviors or traits like those, right? And yes, it's easier to say it than to do it. In fact, I just had 3 times, literally just before we started. I've been having some 2-3 days that these 2-3 passes were a little bit stressful, because some things just kind of weren't really working my way, and I hate when things don't go my way. Not because I'm spoiled, right? But simply because I don't like when things don't go my way. I like when things go my way, right? Simple. But it's just one of those things where my old traits come, they came a little bit back, and so I had to reassure myself and let go of the situation, and put that in my mind that I'm not that person anymore, right? Because it's very easy to fall back on old patterns. It's very easy to do it, and it feels good because it's familiar, right? But at the end of the day, we have to be resilient to forgive and let go, and most importantly, forgive ourselves so we can move on with our life.
Yes, I love what you shared, and that's true. Forgiveness is the process, right? And it takes a strong person to really forgive, because a lot of people think that only weak people forgive, and strong one just being stubborn and keep all that anger and resentment, right? But it's vice versa. It takes a strong person to really forgive, and forgiveness is the practice. It's not a one-time thing. And especially if we are hurt a lot, right? And if we have that hurt inside of us, and we need that time to heal. And first and foremost, it doesn't matter what the other person did. What matters is to release all these negative emotions from your own system. And when we practice forgiveness, in the first and foremost, we forgiven ourselves, right? Forgiven ourselves, and for releasing ourselves, not to hold on to these grudges, not to hold on to that negative energy, because again, we are all energetic beings. And when we accumulate a lot of negative energy, we are creating the circumstances around us, and our life reflect that in a negative way, right? So we become more and more conscious that it's very important to learn how to forgive. And I think it's very important in the relationship and partnership to be able to express yourself, right? And even if you are frustrated, like I always say, it's all about the tone of voice people communicate, right? You can convey the same message, but the tone of your voice could be different, and the person receives the information quite differently, as opposed when we are angry or when we are aggressive or when we are attacking another person. So it's all the skills, right? And that's why what we are doing, we are learning these skills throughout our life. Nobody is an expert in that, right? Because otherwise we wouldn't be on this planet right now. So if we are breathing, it means that there is more work to be done for each one of us. And the more we connect with that, and the more we understand, and less we become that like strong-headed, but rather not be stubborn, but rather be more understanding. We know that every person has to do the forgiveness job, and because we all have experienced something in our life, and somebody hurt us, somebody left that wound inside of us. But all these practices of forgiveness are very important, because again, we do not want to live in the past, because a lot of times when we start remembering what that person did to us, we kind of reliving that past, and we actually dragging that past into our present and even into our future, because eventually it's gonna create in our life results, right? It's gonna show up again in these unfavorable circumstances that we are experiencing. So there is that connection. There is that connection that actually forgiveness versus like getting stuck and continue living that life that we might not prefer, that life that we might not happy about, but because we don't have a choice, because we do not know how to forgive the person, right, that hurt us. And the more we learn about it, the more we become experienced in it, and the more we become calm, right? Because we know that it doesn't matter what another person says, it doesn't matter how another person acts. We learn that we are the ones in charge of the way we respond. Because once we learn how not to react but rather respond, it's like, it's a complete game changer, because we can balance our emotions better. We can regulate our emotions. So it serves many purposes. It serves us to have that inner peace, and it also serves us to be able to just release any negative energy or any negative past experience that we had. So I think it's very important, it's very crucial. And like going to my personal experience, I'm a very forgiving person. Like I always forgive, I don't hold the grudges, and that's how it was in me since I was a child. I remember I had this classmate who was expressing the way that he likes me when he was hitting me. I think it's like, the boys way of showing, right? Because they are looking for the attention. So he used to hit me, and sometimes I was having the like the marks, and my parents would ask me like, what is this? And I would never tell on him, like, like, oh, like he hit me. So it's just like me, I never keep like any grudges on people. I never like hold on to that bad energy, right? Because once you understand how it all works, it's actually when we are forgiving others, we feeling so much better. because we
That's
always can choose, right? We always can choose whether we are gonna be mad at somebody and constantly playing the same movie in our head and bringing all these bad emotions, or we can just, release ourselves and just move on with our life and do what serves us.
I mean, I will have to disagree on that. That's not trying to get attention. That's literally bullying. And I know that because I was bullied for 6 years when I was in kindergarten, and then on primary school I got bullied as well by the same kid, right? So that's not getting attention. That is literally being a piece of shit, right? And
No,
kids
but
are very
maybe
mean anyways.
because Bruno,
But
because
from
that's
my
for
point
the,
of view,
yes,
from
yeah,
my side,
because boy and boy, right? And I'm talking about boy and girl.
yeah, still, but like I mean, like I don't give a shit if you're a boy or a girl. It could be a fucking rhino. I don't give a shit. Like a good father will never kind of like tell a kid like, oh, hit that girl, hit her. Like I don't know. Like I don't know. Maybe the kid grew up like watching his father beat the shit out of his mother. I don't know. But you don't do that. There's no love. There's no love there, honey. There's no love there. Absolutely
No, no,
zero.
no, no.
But
It was very natural in our environment that we were growing up. So
yeah,
it's
then
not
you're a
that
piece of
the
shit.
parents were telling, well, let's just leave it for now. Let's come back to the forgiveness and resilience.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. But like for example, I'll just kind of like touch it on what I just said. Interesting because like very very interesting because um, I said that I was bullied for 6 years when I was a kid. It took me some time to kind of like forgive it myself, right? But that's the thing. Like when I understood that it wasn't about the person, it was about me. It was more about forgiving me of tolerating it and not really sticking up for myself, right? Than really forgiving the person, right? It was more about that, right? And so, it is interesting because a tip that I can share with people is forgive yourself not only because you went through what you went through and now you're learning with it. Forgive yourself because you could have done better, but now be proud of yourself that will never happen again because you know how it feels and you don't want it to happen again. I'll give you an example. Again, with the bullying, right? I was bullied for 6 years, right? I was bullied for 6 years as a kid. Cool. Last year, there were some morons, right, who tried to bully me. And they just didn't manage to do it because, like, I'm not a kid anymore. So, like, I could defend myself, right? And then when you know how people work, when you know how people really behave and work, you know how to get to them. Not in a way like to hurt them or whatever, but you can defend yourself, right? Like you can defend yourself with no intention of harm. Whatever people do with what you do is up to them and only up to them. But as long as your intentions remain pure and they only remain like when it comes to self-defense, whatever they believe and think after what happens, it's up to them. But I find it interesting that I find that very interesting, right? Not just like forgive yourself, but forgive yourself and also be proud of yourself that will never happen again. Because all of that for me works perfectly because that will never happen to me ever again, right? For me, it is amazing because not only I managed to be resilient with it, forgive myself with it, right? But I know how that hurt. I know how it hurts for me to go from major hurt to not even be bothered by it, because honestly it doesn't even matter, right? Is a huge growth. There's huge growth from being majorly hurt, not knowing what to do, to knowing how to deal with it and not even being bothered, and you can move on with it. There's massive growth there, right? And so for me, I find it really really amazing, because honestly, if we don't grow ourselves, we're really being useless to our own selves and to the ones who believe in us and love us, right? Because they're the ones who are going to be the most disappointed. And so, again, we have to forgive ourselves, be resilient, right? And I think, like, especially like when it comes to me, I've came to a conclusion that the majority of times in my life that I have forgave myself, I forgave myself because deep down I wasn't being myself. Either I didn't defend myself, either I didn't speak up, either I didn't, took things by my own ways, either I didn't believe in myself. Every single time I forgave myself because I ultimately doubted myself or didn't defend myself. Everything about me, right? I didn't do the right thing for me. I didn't stick up for myself, right? And I think ultimately that's what ends up with like a lot of people, right? Is that people don't end up sticking up for themselves, and then they end up in these like positions where they have to forgive themselves because they didn't do the right thing for them. So even about doing the right thing, like, yeah, in theory, like in moralistic, ethical views, this and that, fuck that. I don't even give a shit about that. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what works for us and what works for everybody. People have to stick up for themselves, right? Problems emerge out of nothing when people don't stick up for themselves. People have to stick up for themselves because then they end up in a position, right, where they have to forgive themselves because they doubted themselves. They have to forgive themselves because they didn't defend themselves, they didn't stick up for themselves, they didn't believe in themselves. It's always us. It always starts with us, right? And so if we have to forgive ourselves because of things we didn't do, because of things we didn't say, because of things we didn't believe in, right, then start doing the opposite. Start believing in yourself. Start speaking up. Start doing it. Start saying it, right? Who cares how you say it? It doesn't matter, right? But for example, in my case, I rather say it, and I rather say it, in a way that not many people would say it, than to be like, oh, I should have said that. And then, like, imagine and then, like, sometimes it can be something like that really makes a difference. I don't say it, then I have to forgive myself, right? Because then it affected my life, right? And there's many situations like this, right? And it's obviously easier said than done, but it's all about just, doing it and, seeing what's going to happen. Like, and I'll say this, and then I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you so you can talk. But Irina, people know they're mortals, but they live like they're immortals, right? And I say this why? I say this because people know they're mortals. People know they can die tomorrow, but they still live like they can't. And the reason for that is that it don't matter how poor or rich you are. It don't matter how homeless or how many possessions you have, how white or black you are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It really, how short or tall you are, doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because you're gonna die eventually, my friend. You are going to die. Like me, like Irina, like the most successful people are. They all going to die. We are all gonna die one day, right? And you wasting time not doing what you want, when you want, how you want, with who you want, whenever you want, and then you have to forgive yourself because of that. You're literally wasting time out of your happiness. You're not getting any younger, And so, do whatever the fuck you want, right? Be resilient with it, because you're gonna have people who are going to. There will always be people from each side of your life, right? From the good and the bad, right? And if you spend time on the bad side, you're gonna have to forgive yourself much more. and you're gonna have to be much more resilient for fuck knows whatever reason, right? But if you spend on the good side, you don't have to forgive yourself because you're doing things, right, that you love with people that you love. You can thrive so much better there than really on the bad side, right? It's kind of my point.
What I wanted to add is it's very important for both sides in the relationship, for both sides, to understand what forgiveness is and how it works, because a lot of times it takes, you see in the relationship, one person is more prone to forgive, and another person is just like used to the idea that, okay, I can do what I want to do, and my partner is gonna forgive me. Well,
right.
actually, it takes two to tango. So
Yeah,
basically,
totally.
people have to be open and people have to be receptive to each other, as well as, like finding the middle ground where to meet, right? And
Yes.
if one partner is not used to the practice of forgiveness or understanding how it works, at least they should be open to listen, and they should be open to try it, right? To see where it's
Yeah.
gonna take them. Because again, we all want to be understood, we all want to be loved, and we all want to be cherished in our life, right? So if we are talking about the partnership, about the relationship has to thrive, and
Yep.
and it takes two people to contribute to that, right? So
Absolutely.
nobody
Absolutely.
can blame just one person for whatever is happening in the relationship, because the contribution of both partners, whether they care or they didn't care, all just just forming that picture and shaping up that relationship that they're having. And
Absolutely.
forgiveness is very, very needed, right? And it's not that a woman has to be forgiven and man shouldn't be, because like the way people were trained or raised, right? So we don't want that ego to come out and speak, rather than allowing our heart to really connect with our heart and really understand what our heart wants. And yeah, forgiveness is something that we don't really talk much about. It's not something that we hear all the time, but this is something very powerful. And especially if people want to have good relationship and people want to have the life that they truly desire and love to live, forgiveness is one of the practices that they do along with the gratitude.
Yes, I agree. I agree 100% with what you just said. I talked about individually, now I'll talk about relationships because you also touched on that topic, on that point, right? Yeah, I agree when you say that. Like a relationship takes two people to work, right? And so it's never just one's fault; it's both, right? One for starting it and the other one for not knowing how to end it, right? As an example, right? It takes both. It takes work from both. It takes work from both sides. Now, I just don't agree with I just don't agree with staying silent. I think like that again, right? Because, for example, if you're in a relationship, the last thing you want to do, right? If you're in a relationship, the last thing you really want to do and feel is that you have to forgive yourself for tolerating your partner's behavior towards you. Like that's not a very good place to be in. Like that's not really the ultimate goal for a marriage or a relationship. I don't think when people get into a relationship, that's their ultimate goal. right? These two feeling like shit on their bed, crying miserably, right, and lonely, because they're not able to speak up towards their partner because they're afraid of what they might say or not. That's not really the ultimate goal for a relationship, in my personal belief. And so, if anybody who's watching this is in a place like that, please reach out to us so we know we can talk with you and help you, and put it in the comments. If not, congratulations. You're in a very good place. If we, don't put that in there. But it all starts again with self-forgiveness, forgiving ourselves and being resilient with it, right? Because it does take like a lots of courage to let go. It does simply because our body gets addicted to that feeling, right? There are people in the world who are addicted to stress. They're actually addicted to it. Like, that stress makes them, like, they need to feel that stress to feel that they are alive. If they're not feeling that stress, they don't feel alive. It's almost like their drug. Their drug is stress. Their drug is anxiety. That's their drug. They love it. And there was this study. I saw this online, by the way. There was this study that said he talked about stress anyways, and said that like there was a group of people who saw stress as a very bad thing, and they developed all these like health problems, and then there was these people who saw stress as a good thing, right? And they managed to thrive in it, and they managed to use it to work, right? So even the most difficult things in life that seem like really, 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 really bad, if you know how to use them, they're perfectly like amazing. They're like awesome, right? And forgiveness is one of them, right? We talk about stress being, whatever. Forgiveness is one of them, right? And so if you know how to really apply forgiveness, so that's why I say, and I said it multiple times, and I say it again, forgiveness starts with yourself and not with other people. It starts with yourself. You don't even have to, I do believe, in my personal opinion, which is not universal, it is personal, that if you forgive yourself, you don't have to forgive other people. Clearly, I fully believe that if you're able to forgive yourself, you don't have to forgive other people. Because if you forgive yourself, you're okay with it. You don't even give a shit anymore, right? About what happened, because you're at peace with it, right? And so if you're able to be at peace with it, you're able to be at peace with other people, right? And you don't need to revisit those places, those dark places, to feel like you're in control of it, right? And I think that's what happens a lot. I remember when it was me, I had to revisit those places. I had to revisit those conversations. I had to revisit those memories, right? So I could feel like I was in control of my traumas, of what was happening to me. But only when I really let go of it was when I really was in control of it, right? Enough to just be like, okay, I'm actually over this now. I can move on, right? And so it takes a lot of courage for anybody who let go of a lot of stuff. And I congratulate you, right? And for people who haven't yet, you're in the right path. You're in the right path. You don't just click your fingers and be like, it's okay, I don't care anymore. No, that's not how it works, right? Because of your emotional memory, because of your actual memory, because of your muscle memory, right? And so your nervous system literally registered every single emotion, right? Your heart has a mind of its own, right? When you forgive yourself, when you forgive your mind, if that feeling feels incomplete, is because you haven't forgave your heart yet, right? And so you have to forgive what's in your mind, and you have to forgive what's in your heart, right? So yeah.
Yeah, those are beautiful shares. And also, like sometimes there are different circumstances that cause people to hurt each other, right? And it's very important, like we touched upon, to communicate. Because when we avoid the conversations, when we just like want just to be like that ostrich, put the head in the sand, right? And don't communicate. This is something that creates more issues, right? So communication is the key, and just sit down with your partner and have the conversation. And the conversation has to be flowing naturally as you speak normally, right? Because for me, the conversation ends at the point when the person starts raising the voice. I'm not gonna just sit there and listen and be like that, like little school girl who is here to be reprimanded. So there should be also some kind of understanding. When you talk among each other, there is no like name callings, or there is no voice raising. It has to be normal conversation, so people can actually stay stress free, and at the same token receive the information the right way. And obviously then there is a way to resolve, right, to resolve these issues. And again, forgiveness is something that we constantly practicing, we are constantly learning, we are constantly becoming better at. But this is something that is for everybody to do. There is not a single person who is, like I said, perfect or done with everything. So we are learning and we are growing together. And that's the beauty of this work. And again, we also have to know our boundaries. Like, it's okay to forgive, but at the same token, you have to know your personal boundaries, so not allowing the people to cross them again and again and again. So it's totally fine to forgive, but it's also very advisable for people to keep their personal boundaries and not allow anybody else to behave the way that you would not tolerate. And I think it's important to voice your opinion and be upfront about it, and saying such and such behavior is not going to be tolerated. So if you really want to talk and you really want to come up to some kind of agreement, let's have the civilized discussion, and let's just solve the problems together. Because every time that the problem arises, people can act as victims, because it's easier to act as a victim and blame everybody around, the circumstances, the people, everybody else, but not looking at themselves, not realizing that they are also cause of that problem, right? Because it it involves everybody. So when people are staying in that victimized situation, they do not want to hear that like the truth. What is the truth, right? Again, it's not everybody who is ready to hear the like the real words. But this is something that we all can practice. This is something we all can develop. And honestly, it's just it just shows how much personal growth we are done, because we all can be more aware, we all can be the heroes. We can always flip the script and go from victimized personality to be the hero, and just really work on ourselves and become a better versions of ourselves, and stop reacting, but rather than just respond, be more in tune what's going on around us, and how we actually respond to the person, to their behavior, or to everything what's going on outside of us.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, I
So
agree with what you're saying.
yes,
I have nothing
and
to add.
I would love for anybody who is watching, who is going to be watch the replay, to add some comments, because we love to have this discussion, because we also want and we value your opinion on that topic, right? We want to know what are your thoughts and what do you think about it, because obviously like I said, forgiveness is something that a lot of times we don't even think about, right? And this is something that we always have to tune in. We want to bring this to our attention, because without the forgiveness, we cannot build the healthy relationships. either with a partner or with ourselves or with everybody around.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel
So
like I believe that with every single problem that comes across in our life, like um, there's a saying in Portuguese, because I'm Portuguese, right? That goes like this: as desculpas não se pedem, elas evitam-se. So that means, well, apologies are not asked; they're avoided. That means that you don't have to apologize if you don't fuck it up, right? And so I say this because we're talking about like how important forgiveness is, but let's also, for example, talk about how to avoid that, how to avoid forgiving yourself, right? What can you do to not make that mistake? And of course, like, we don't know the future, right? We don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes we have to make a choice, and honestly, it's really 50-50. It's like it can go either way, right? But for example, like here's a situation where you don't have to forgive yourself. You don't even have to be annoyed at yourself. When you literally give your best, when you give your best at something, when you really give your best, right, at something, there's no reason to forgive yourself unless you judge yourself, and then you have to forgive yourself for judging yourself, and then you start again, right? Because I feel like resilience doesn't just come from being able to let go. It also comes from your ability, or in this case, our ability, right, to know that we're not going to leave this earth, this world, without trauma, right? Because then you're not living. Eventually, you're going to have to forgive yourself. No matter how good or not you are going to fail at some point in your life at something, right? And you don't fail if you don't try something new. Simple. That's why you get good at something. It's because you get good at something because you either have some sort of talent to it, right? You either, you have some sort of gift on it, you have some sort of talent, but look, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna fail first time. That's fine, right? And maybe 5 times out of 10 you're gonna fail second and third and whatever, and if you don't, congratulations. But if you do, you can either judge yourself, and then you're gonna have to forgive yourself, and it's gonna be a whole loop of, oh my god, I'm not worthy of this, and all pleather of, oh my god, I'm not good enough, blah 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 blah, when you literally gave your best, right? Or you can just accept that you gave your best, right? You can just accept that you did give your best, right? And if you do become resilient, right, but in this sense resilient in all that process, in all that journey, you will accept it, that it takes time. There's many few things that give you fast results, and the majority of them is just cheap dopamine getting inflicted in your brain to make life look easier than it actually is in a lot of things, because everything that is worthy sometimes is going to take a lot of time, right? And so you should be forgiving yourself for actually taking cheap dopamine escapes, right? And you should be elevating yourself, right, for example, delaying gratification, right? Because delayed gratification, things that are delayed gratification, doing first what you have to and then getting the reward, right? And then if you do what you must and then you don't get the reward, you were still resilient. And that is so honorable. It takes men and women, right? That's so honorable. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of determination, right? It takes a lot of effort and sacrifice. and it's really it's fucking beautiful. You know, it's not about being beautiful. It's not about that. Who cares? It's about simply being. There's dignity in that. There is dignity in that, and it's something that, for example, is lacking in the world a lot nowadays. But it will always be needed, right? And so, if you can truly be like that, not exactly like that, right? But be the way you want to be, right? Because society will tell you, look, do that, and you're like, okay, I'll do that, and then they're like, no, but don't do it like that, and then you're like, yeah, but that's how you do it, yeah, but don't do it like that, like don't try to do it like that, you know, like just whatever. Why? Because that's the idea that they have you in their mind. Forgive yourself for even doing what they want you to do, right? Forgive yourself for example, you know, like shrinking yourself to the idea they have of you that doesn't even amount to your actual potential. They just want you to be like them so they feel less shit about you, right? And so be resilient with that as well. Be super resilient with that idea. Be super resilient with that feeling. Bathe yourself with that feeling, because the higher you go, the more you're going to have people like that. So that's why it is so important that whether, you know, high or not high you go, depending on your objectives is, right? Depending on what you want for yourself. Because remember, what you want for yourself, not what your family or your friends or the homeless person down the street wants for yourself, right? Because guess what? All those people, they don't even know what they want for themselves, right? I doubt those damn people wake up every single day, look themselves in the mirror like, oh, I'm so worthy. My ass, they think that. They don't even think that, actually, right? And so be resilient with that. Because there's many ways that this can take. We can put this in individual, we can put this in the relationship-wise, individual-wise. We can also put this into the relationship type of conversation. We can, right? But that's different because there's two people. There's one believing in each other, and other than that, it's toxic, right? But the reality is like, be resilient with that idea, right? And so, it's like I said in the beginning as well. You can either be on the good side or the bad side. And if you're on the bad side, you have to forgive yourself much more, because you'll always be making the same mistakes, and you'll spend a whole lifetime forgiving yourself every single time for making the same mistakes, because you just don't learn, right? And you have to be resilient in shit, right? Or you can play on the good side. And on the good side, it's not about that you don't have problems. You do. But you focus more on solutions. You're able to forgive yourself much easier. You're resilient much more with what you do and how you do it. And most importantly, with who you do it, that will ultimately serve as a foundation to thriving, as you will serve a foundation for them as well. Right? And that is also very important, because the people you have in your life ultimately dictate your life. Your wife dictates who you are. The people you hang around dictates who you are. Right? And the majority of it is not even. This has nothing to do with who. It has nothing to do with who people actually are. Right? It has to do with who is worthy of your time and your attention and your words. That's what it really is, right? And so if you're up here and you're dealing with people who are here, you're here. You're up here and people are here, right? People in here who are not worthy of your value, you're doing this for them. No. They have to do this, right? Now that doesn't mean you should be arrogant or you should be whatever, or no. That doesn't mean you have to be a piece of shit. It has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with you did too much to get here. They didn't. You went through the stairs, and now that you're here because they knew you before, now they want to get the elevator to here. No, that doesn't work like that. And if you're not able to value your worth, you should forgive yourself as well for that, right? Because your worth is like, it's super important. worth is super important. It's super important to feel worthy, to be worthy, right? Super important. Super important.
You know
Yes.
what I wanted just to wrap it up and to add that it's about acceptance, because everybody is at their level of awareness. So there is no judgment, and
No.
we
True.
just become, like we become more conscious who we are giving our energy to. And like I said, if people are open to work on themselves, if people are open to learn what forgiveness is all about, they can always do it, right? So it's never too late. Every day is a fresh new start. So if this is something that people didn't experience, they can actually start looking into that and understand that forgiveness is the process, but it's a beautiful process. And what's important is who you become after you actually get to know yourself better and get to experience how to forgive yourself and other people. That was a beautiful, beautiful episode. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.
Bye.